Jerry Garcia didn't just play scales, he had a blueprint for the fretboard, and it starts right here. So let's start with the biggest view, and then we'll start narrowing it down. The mixolydian scale, we've got 7 notes spread across the fretboard, giving you that classic kind of major Garcia sound, but it's not the major scale, it's a little different. It's just got that flat 7. Right? And that is like 9 out of 10 times when they're jamming out, he's focused a lot on the mixolydian sound, but there's so much more going on we'll get to. But that is the scale. You don't need to know it all in place. We can just play right here around this shape right here. If you're thinking about the cage system, this would be the G shape. Move it up here to B. And we're just jamming over kind of a Scarlet Begonia style a little. Right? So this is really where you want to start when you're learning some Jerry Garcia style scales. Keep in mind this too, this isn't just like Jerry's thing, this is just music, but these are the things that he particularly liked. So this is a good one to just try yourself, play through all the 7 notes and just notice how bright and open it feels. And if you want to get better at knowing these shapes here, the cage system cheat sheet that I have will help you kind of just figure out the chord shapes and also these scale shapes in there. It doesn't have mixolydian, but if you just take the major and you flat the 7th, like I mentioned, you'll get there. It's got the pentatonics and minor and all that stuff too. Put a link in the description down below. But now let's take a couple notes out and hear how that sounds. Right, so we get the major pentatonic, and I'm just playing a lot here, just kind of playing around like it's a scale, not how I typically play, but just you can get a feel for how these different scales sound, and especially in comparison to each other. So we have just 5 notes, and suddenly things sound a lot brighter, especially cleaner. It's like much easier to phrase with because a lot of melodies revolve around these notes. So you can hear the comparison. We got the mixolydian sound. And then pentatonic. Right? So next time you solo, just try sticking to the pentatonic for one time through, and you'll hear how your phrases naturally get much simpler and a whole lot more melodic, Let me start this track again because that's what they get really loud. So the next one is something that Jerry, he did all the time. He didn't just float around randomly. He had these like landmarks like this. So that was just the chord, right? So in this case, a B chord, but it doesn't really matter what chord you're doing though, just a major chord, right? So you get the root, the 3rd, and the 5th, right? So root, 3rd, and 5th, and then again, root, 3rd, 5th, root again. And these are like, the kind of like the safe bets that let everything else make sense, So you don't want to just play, just that, but know where they are so you can end a phrase on that, and it's going to sound better than it's like, okay, that's part of the scale, but that's not a chord tone. It wants to just go down to a chord tone or up to the next one. It really wants to go this one, it's closer, but that's going to help your phrases make a lot more sense, be more melodic when you're playing with the chords, especially if there's a bigger chord progression too, and you can outline it. But if it's something new to you, the easiest thing is just playing with one chord, like in this case here. So you want to try locking on those chord tones when the jam is rolling, and then maybe branch out, So you play it, and as it keeps going, you want to build. And then start using other notes from the pentatonic, the mixolydian, and that kind of, it's like building your solo from the ground up. And a student, Eric, who took one of my courses, the Language of Guitar, Jerry Garcia edition, I'm not sure which volume he took, or maybe he took them all, I've got like 4 currently. He said that the course was very focused on learning the style of players such that you can morph their style into one that you can call your own. And I think that that's really important to keep in mind, that when we're looking at Jerry here, it's not about trying to sound just like him. It's trying to see the different things he's doing and how he's doing it, and take the little pieces that you like and make it your own, not to just be a carbon copy. When I first started diving into the Jerry stuff, I was a little reluctant to really try to sound like him, because I'm just used to sounding like myself. Like, you heard me just play on my own, I don't really sound anything like him, but I love diving deep into how he sounds, and it's made me a lot better player. So just keep that in mind. These are all just scales. There's nothing unique to him about this. It's about how he played with it. And so just experiment on your own too, and come up with your own sounds. Let me start that track again. So now let's go back to that major pentatonic and add a little twist. All right, it's the major blues scale, right? It's the same thing as the major pentatonic, but putting in what they call a major blues note. This right here, it's the flat third. Classic Jerry. This gives you much more sound. And of course, it's not just playing these notes. I'm just showing you the note choices, but really it's about how he would play them. Maybe bending up to it. This hammer on. Or sliding, those are big things. But just to get that down right now, it's just right there. Here is the major pentatonic without it. And then with it. It gives you that major sound, but there's some edge to it, and Jerry used it all the time. So next time you are playing, try to sneak that blue note in there and to the major pentatonic, and you'll hear the color kind of shift instantly. And again, if you haven't gotten that cheat sheet to get these shapes down, like that G shape, that everything we're doing all this right here with, it is linked down below, so don't forget about that. But here's the key. Jerry, he didn't see these as separate scales. He saw them as just this one big connected map, mixolydian, pentatonic, chord tones, major blues, regular blues, whatever it is. They're all just layers that you can move between freely, like this. So, when you practice, to start simple, and you just start layering them in, and, just like we did here, you can even go up one, and then you come back down, another like pentatonic. I used to do exercise like that, and that really helps you get into your fingers, and you start hearing the fretboard as one big connected soundscape. But knowing these scales is a great start, but the scales alone don't just give you Jerry's sound. What really matters are, how it's played in one particular way, are the patterns he played inside them. And that is kind of one of the big foundations of his voice and guitar, is these little scale patterns we do. So check out this video next, where I break down the top 6 scale patterns Jerry Garcia used all the time. Although there's really no top 6. It's my top 6, my fave, but check it out right here.